Hello everyone, my name is Gavin, and this will be kind of an interesting video today. What we're going to do is have one object have a ray sensor on it, and it's going to scan some multiple objects in our environment. And when the ray sensor comes into contact with another object in the scene, it's going to test whether or not it has a certain game property using the get property names thing I did in a previous tutorial about a week ago. And if it has a certain property, it's going to change a Boolean operator from false to true on that object. This is kind of something that can be useful when you're like doing a scanning system or even being incorporated in like a stealth game of some kind, but I will just get started. So to start off, let's go from defaults to game logic and go from Blender render to Blender game. I'll actually right click on this light, hit X delete, and right click on this camera, hit X delete. And let's right click on this cube in the middle, and let's add an always sensor, and let's add a ray sensor. This ray sensor will be looking for the property block, and its range will be 100, and we'll name it as ray all lowercase. And let's minimize this and connect it to a Python controller. And we want to have our cube rotate from side to side. So let's add two keyboard sensors. This first one will be left. I'll have A selected right here, and I'll minimize this. This second keyboard sensor will be named as right. I'll have D selected right here, and I'll minimize this. And what we are going to do is add an edit object, motion actuator, sorry. And we're going to rotate this left one on the Z by 2, and the right one on the Z axis by -2. So let's rotate those. I'll actually name these as left and right. And we are going to connect them respectively to the sensors named left and right. So if I hit 7 to go in the top view, we should see we can rotate our cubes left and right. Alright, now that we have this, what we're going to do is make a simple script by doing templates, Python, and then game logic simple. Let's drag this out right here. Drag this out. And hit Control and scroll up on your mouse to make your text larger. And let's rename this as scripts.py. And let's add that into our Python controller right here. And what we're going to do first is, since our ray sensor is looking for the block property, let's do spacebar and then add a cube. Make sure they're on the same level as our main cube. And these other cubes will have the block property. The block property like this. And we're going to make them actors. So let's click on the physics tab and select actor right here. And let's hit Shift and D to copy these new cubes a couple of times, like this. And what we're going to do is I'm going to right click back on my main cube, is we're going to make it so that there's a laser that appears whenever it encounters an object with the property block. So let's have ray is going to equal controller.sensors ray. And what we're now going to do is from the BGE, let's import render. So let's have from BGE, import render. And down here, let's have if ray.positive. We're going to have render.drawLine, own.world position, ray.hits position, so essentially the position of where we encounter our block. And we're going to have it be a red laser, so let's have 1, 0, 0, like that. And I'll drag it out so you can see it. So it should look like that. And we can see there's a red laser that appears whenever we encounter an object, and it goes off whenever we don't. Alright, now that we have that, what we're going to do is open up our console by doing Window and then Toggle System Console if you're using a PC. And what we're going to do is have it so that when our array encounters an object, like this, it's going to apply a variable name of target to be target is equal to ray.hitObject. So that's the name of the object that we're currently hitting. And we're going to have just target.getPropertyNames. So let's have a variable called list is going to equal targets.getProperty names like this. And let's print that list to the console. Well, actually, I'll print a couple of asterisks beforehand. Print a couple after. And then in between these lines, let's print the list. And since we've only got the block property in there, that's all that we should be seeing. So we should see it's just going to print block like this, up and down, because that's the only properties these guys have. Okay, next let's right click on these cubes and let's add 3 Boolean operator properties like this, and let's call these properties 1, 2, and 3. Alright, and actually let's click the eyes on all of these. I'll right click on the other 2 cubes that don't have them and delete them, and copy this new one that does. So we should see, if we do game and then show debug properties with these eyes selected, that we can see the properties in the corner, like this. And you should see that if we go into the console, it'll print block and then 1, 2, 3. But the only properties we see in the corner are the ones, the 1, 2, 3, the ones with the eyes selected. And what we're going to do is have it so it's going to scan through the list that it has. So we're going to use a for loop. So let's have for x and list. So essentially for the items within our list, what we're going to do is check if x is equal to the Boolean operator of 2, or is equal to the string of 2. And if it does, we're going to have targets x, or actually target 2 is going to equal true. So we should see that if I hit play, there's going to be on cube 2 in the debug properties, it's going to label it as true. And if we toggle cube 3 over here on the right, you'll see that cube 0.002, the 2 game property is now equal to true. And you can see on this one it'll be equal to 2 as well. And if we delete these other 2 cubes and drag this one off to the side, we can get a better angle because they're all labeled as false in that top left corner. And if we scroll our mouse over, it's going to label that as true like that. So this may be kind of a confusing topic, but essentially all it's doing is if your array is positive, it's just going to scan through the list, the items within the list of properties the object has, and it's going to set one of those variables, the 2 one in particular, to be true. Alright guys, I hope you found this useful. I'll show you guys the script just for one more second, like this, and there you go. Just define your array sensor, and if your array is positive, apply the variable name targets to your array hit object. Then draw a line from the position of the cube to the hit object position. Get a list of the game properties. You don't need this, but you can just to print to the console. And for the items within the list, check them all. If x is equal to 2, set that Boolean operator to true.